Hello everyone and welcome to this video which is in our Engine Snack series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and we're taking a look at another game played by Koivisto, this time against Ethereal in the TCEC Season 22 League 1. We're having a look at a lot of games of Koivisto at the moment, but it's the runaway leader in League 1 and it is playing absolutely beautifully. This was a very interesting game, an opposite coloured bishop endgame with rooks on, and the way that Koivisto handled it was beautiful, and I really wanted to share that with you. So white's been very much better from the opening, and actually after bishop b5 black decided to play knight d7, giving up this pawn on d6 but hoping to get opposite coloured bishops. How was that going to happen? Well, bishop c6 was played, rook b8, we'll come back to that moment, it's quite interesting. Queen takes d6, knight e5, queen takes d8, knight takes f3 check, g takes f3, and rook takes d8. Opposite coloured bishops always give the possibility for a draw. Black is actually threatening to entrench itself on the dark squares with bishop f4. So Koivisto plays the move e5. Feels a bit odd in a way to really weaken white's pawn structure there, but we get the e-file, we get an invasion point on e7, and well, we also get something else which is slightly less obvious, but we'll come across that later. So king f6 was played, rook e4, bishop f8, rook fe1, rook bc8. In actual fact, you know, even in this position, I was playing lots of matches between Revenge and Stockfish, and Stockfish was having very great difficulties holding this already. So, yeah, I mean, I think you can say this is a very serious advantage indeed. H3 was played, bishop d6, king f1, rook to c7, king to e2, bishop to e7, b3, bishop to f8. Some cautious moves here, and I mean, white actually has got two possible plans in this position. You would think about bringing the king all the way over to b5 to attack this weak a5 pawn, but well, black's actually played it quite cleverly. The idea is that if king d3, we've got rook takes c6. So that's not possible immediately, even though it would be a very nice plan. So what white comes up with is a plan to actually create some extra space on the king side, and white does that by smashing this pawn up to f5 and hitting black's pawn structure. And this involves a fairly nice regrouping, which Koivisto spots very nicely. So f4, rook c8, rook g1, a little bit of shuffling around here, bishop h6, king f3, bishop f8, h4. Doesn't quite feel natural to put pawns on dark squares when you've got when black's got a dark squared bishop, but there is method to the madness. Bishop d6, rook e1, bishop f8, and now Koivisto does a very nice regrouping, because what white wants to do is to play f4 to f5, but at the same time to have, you know, a huge amount of pressure on g6. So this bishop is withdrawn from this, you know, seemingly fantastic position on c6 and comes back to d3 in order to support the move f5. And well, you know, once we're going to break open the king side, well, white gains entry points here. And you know, what's the big advantage of this entry point? Why is this so strong? Well, actually, the rook's coming round to g8, to a8 rather, and then to take the pawn on a5. And this pawn's going to be a runner, because you know, it's very hard for black to use the dark square bishop to stop this pawn. I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe the only way you could do it is to give up a pawn and get a bishop onto this diagonal, but yeah, at some stage you can't keep on giving up pawns anymore. So rook takes d5, rook h8, bishop d2, rook g8. White took the pawn on h5 and then went after the a pawn and took the pawn on a5. And well, I mean, Ethereal's a tough fighter. It did its best to, you know, to get at the white position here. You know, hitting the pawn on f2 there, getting the pawn on h4. But you know, the problem is here that, yeah, what can you do? I mean, here actually, Koivisto taking a very nice, simple approach here, just swapping off the rook and then playing a5. And well, this didn't last long at all. This a pawn was an absolute monster. The one interesting thing about it is that, you know, you put it on Stockfish and you say, Stockfish, how could you have defended this? And Stockfish goes all the way back to move 18. And after bishop c6, it doesn't play the move rook b8 that Ethereal played. It plays the move rook c8. And the idea is that after queen d6, knight e5, queen takes d8, knight takes f3, rook takes d8, white goes e5 again. Yeah, I mean, actually, not that much has changed, but the rook is on c8 rather than b8. And here black plays the move bishop f4. Rook e7, rook c7, rook e4, and g5. And you really see the point of this, because, you know, what we saw in the game was white having control of all these dark squares and using this f-pawn to smash open the black king side. What Stockfish does is simply establish itself on the dark squares, really entrench itself here, and then just wait for the rest of time. You know, the king would like to get over to the queen side to come to the b5 pawn, but we've got this standard trick, of course, that king f1, king f7. Well, you know, you can't go across to the queen side because of rook takes c6, and otherwise black is just going to wait for all of time just to see how white breaks through. And well, in my games, Revenge didn't manage, and Revenge was playing these endgames quite well, so I kind of trust it. But it's you know, really an amazing example of you know, how Stockfish finds, you know, defensive structures in everything. And, you know, once you see how the game has gone, you know, with the f pawn coming to f5, you know, black having no hold on the kingside dark squares and white smashing open the light squares, well, you understand then, you know, oh, this is why Stockfish did this defense. But of course, yeah, to see it from that far away is just incredible. But, you know, again, brilliant endgame play from Koivisto, and yeah, again, some a little bit of defensive magic there from Stockfish, just to put it all into perspective. Wonderful play.